Swiggity sorty, let's get that booty.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the SlimCogcast. How y'all doing? Been in the house lately. I know me myself, it's a way of life. For you all, it is a temporary facet. Now, I want to tell y'all to welcome back, and I hope y'all having a great, wonderful day. Still, keeping active, moving around. Me, I've been doing the contrary. I've been eating my ass off, and I've been getting drunk. So, me and my choice of wine have been getting along very, very well lately, and I've been widening my palate, and I've just gotten to know wine, so I'm enjoying that. But this is not a alcohol podcast. This is a gaming and anime podcast. So, speaking of which, and since I forgot to put it in the notes, I'm gonna just get this out of the way. I'm gonna talk anime first this time. Yes, first, let's talk anime. Now, as usual, I've been keeping up with my Hero Acca, or as they call it, the Macadamia. And oh my god, dude. Last week, I didn't get a chance to tell you how my feelings about last week's episode, but I can't tell you about that one and this week's. So, the strangest thing, I appreciate so much what they've done with Eri. Like, that little girl is the most precious thing you've seen in almost any anime. But then the same can be said for the other one I've been watching, which I told you all I was going to start Demon Slayer. Now, I did enjoy this little, like, slightly non-filler arc that we've had thus far, because it was actually wholesome. But now I'm ready to get back to the gritty. I'm ready to get back to seeing him trying to get better with his powers and things, which they have given us a tidbit of that as well. So they tried to give us a little bit of everything in this filler, which I appreciate. So that's why I don't hate it as much, or not at all, really. Let me take that back. I don't hate it at all. It's enjoyable filler. So now I'm ready for us to get back to the grind, get us a new villain to fight. A new stepping stone, or uncover some more lore. What's going on with Darby and things like that. And now we got this guy Hawks running around, who's just the most nonchalant asshole, but he's a badass. I won't say he's an asshole, but he's a little more forward with his intentions and his words. So I respect that. He's one of the more no bullshit types of heroes. And that's refreshing. I like that. And we're introduced to a lot of others that's been well anticipated from the manga, that a lot of people going crazy about on Twitter, but I refuse to spoil myself on. Because if I start an anime before I read the manga, I will not spoil myself with the manga. And if I read the manga first, and and let's say the anime has already been out and it's caught up, I won't watch the anime ahead of where I've read. So it's just like that. Whatever comes first, I'm gonna experience it in that form. So we're gonna stick with the anime as far as My Hero Acca goes. Now, on another note, I do find it interesting to see Endeavor's character growth, which is something amazing. The only character I don't want to grow outside of, personality wise, the only character I don't want to see grow personality wise in Macadamia is Bakugo. I want him to stay the same, be himself, and still want to be a hero. If he pulls a Vegeta, I will be sorely so disappointed. Like that would ruin the character for me. It would be akin to, say, what if Killua just decided to be evil and take up the mantle of his family? Like, it would throw everything off, especially with us knowing his family. It's a dynamic with the fact that he wants to be different from them. And the good thing that he knows, that relationship he had with nothing. But back on topic, yeah. Right now, Endeavor is trying his best to be more open and understanding to the fans. And I like the fact that one of the fans, they didn't go crazy and say, "Oh, thank you so much, Endeavor, for noticing me, senpai." He didn't do that. He was just like, "Oh no, this is not what my hero does. It's not right. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong." And that makes sense. It would be weird if say your favorite mutant was Magneto, and then he decided to start signing autographs as soon as he goes over to Xavier's side. Xavier's side. It would be weird, just to flip it to the comic book lore or whatnot. But I digress again. But yeah, it's all been getting pretty interesting, and I am fully invested. Now, Demon Slayer, boy, is that one hell of an anime. Man, I was not ready for that art style. It is so stylistic and surreal. It's like It's got elements of the art style that looks like it doesn't belong. Like you can tell it's 3D animated, but it's done so well that you don't mind. So it's not exactly like Overlord Finale type of 3D animation and CGI incorporated with the 2D art style, but it's more. How can I explain? It's kind of akin to the visual. The visual prowess achieved by Arc System Works with their fighting games lately, since the last two Guilty Gears, I think it was, since Guilty Gear Xrd and onward, and then the same way they did with Dragon Ball Fighters. It's like that. It's like they found a way to blur that line between 2D and 3D so well that it just doesn't fucking matter, and it's so much better. So that's dope. I'm all the way in on that. I'm with it, you know. And I just I think I did about 13 episodes, so I just got introduced to I can't recall his name, but for the sake of the lack of remembering, I'm gonna just call him a Lightning Boy with the split personality. Super good. I think it starts with a Z, his name. I can't remember, but super good character. I expected him to be just a goofball, you know, another Mineta with a blade, you know, but he's is more depth than that. And the way he just cut down that demon, that yokai, it was so good. So yeah, that was fucking dope. I'm invested on that. Now I see why people were losing their minds over this anime so much. Also, a little girl, demon girl, should not be that adorable, and I feel wrong for appreciating that character. But let's move on. But yeah, I won't touch on Demon Slayer too much because I haven't exactly finished it, and since it's like a 1 season run with like 20 some episodes, I won't give a full spiel on it until I complete it, which most likely I will this week, yeah, for sure. So beyond that, that's the anime that I've been looking into, and now the games that I've been playing this week. Now, in the past week, I think last week I updated you all on my playthrough of Sonic Forces, I believe. And if I hadn't, then I'll just go ahead and let you know, because I don't recall if I talked about it. But Sonic Forces, the way I remember its release, during its time of release, was that everybody was mad that it wasn't Generations 2, and more people were pissed that the story was not what they expected it to be. Me personally, I did not find the story to be so bad. It felt, I'm not going to say it was amazing either. It felt on par for a Sonic adventure story, you know, in most points. It just was a little short, you know, by comparison to the others. But as far as gameplay, there was more game than there was cutscenes. Like there was about 30 stages available, which, given it was a bit of padding out thanks to the creative character stages, but it was worth it. It wasn't that bad. The creative characters gameplay wasn't terrible either. Depending on the wisp, what was it? Was wisping? Depending on the wisp weapon that you use, your gameplay could vary. And even then, the good ones is kind of like meh. Because the best one, in my opinion, of course, would be the ring dash. Because come on, you play a 3D Sonic, why would you not have that ability with you? You know, but other people swear by the other abilities as well. But I'm more partial to the ring dash and or light dash rather. But with this one, it's activated by a field or an AoE of activation in front of your character. So it's not exactly you being along the line of rings and it automatically corrects itself. It's where your direction you're facing and what rings are within that area of effect. So it's kind of weird. It can get janky sometimes, but it works better than previous light dashes. And you know, it's the one thing that I can say about it is they've actually fixed the light dash to be more dependable. It ain't perfect, but it's a lot more dependable. And they fixed the homing attack to where it's actually airtight, almost perfect. Like it's just that good. Like they knew that they fixed it so well that there's certain parts of the game where you have to choose not to homing attack one target and wait for your jump to reach a certain height so you can homing attack a different target that it'll give you the option to hit. So yeah, I dig it. Final boss was pretty I won't say difficult. It was a challenge. It put to test the things that you've learned thus far in the game, which I find to be always a good game design thing. And it makes you pay attention to your surroundings as well. The one thing it didn't prepare you for was the breakable obstacles in the very, very last like dimension area. That you had to break the middle obstacle to get a boost, and you had to break the side obstacle to get rings in order to sustain yourself in the boss fight. And they didn't exactly prepare you for that. So you have to trial and error learn that fact. And because and the biggest problem with that is trial and error at that point in the game would call for so much lost time and so much game redone, since it's like a 3-phase boss fight where you have to do the first phase with classic Sonic, second phase with your created character, and then you had to do the last phase with all 3 of them together. And I felt it was kind of cheap how they decided to do that. So if you mess up the last phase by not knowing, you're going to be taking a heavy punishment for it. But all in all, it wasn't terrible. I played worse. I'm conditioned to it because I've come up with older game design norms. And it was the norm to have your main punishment for losing or, not learning a pattern or improving on a boss fight or a certain enemy or in an area. Your price was the time that you spent. So you get set back, in progress. And, I'm accustomed to that. It's normal to me, especially playing the Soul series as well. But as far as this being a Sonic game, I don't think many people would appreciate it that much. Then again, I could be wrong, because there's been some janky ass boss fights in previous Sonic games, so who knows. This might just be the fact that game was like lackluster and almost bad but not great, actually makes it a mainstay in the Sonic franchise and their track record. Like it's a legitimate Sonic game at that point, because it ain't 06. But it ain't Colors and Generations. And my best 3D Sonics till this day is still Adventure 2, Colors, and Generations. So, hey, I mean, you can't really make it any worse. Well, no, they can, but I mean, they got every reason to make it better. So they've learned as much as they could. But the speed run should be interesting. I just saw someone find a new speed run strat in one of the stages, and it looked pretty damn dope. So if I could see something, hopefully SGDQ that's upcoming is gonna have some special event, for the whole epidemic that's going around. Can't really say the C word apparently. So the big epidemic that's going around, hopefully they'll have something special for that. Now, another game that I've been playing this week, a slight update to the game that I play on a regular basis, that I didn't cover last week, is now they have universal bans of certain heroes in Overwatch, where every week there will be heroes outside of rotation. So like, say League of Legends, for example, would have certain heroes that you could play for free, and they rotate those every week. Well, in Overwatch now, you will not be able to play certain heroes per week, and they'll just have them banned and you can't use them. Now, I didn't mind it at first, and it was okay. It wasn't a big deal because, me being a flex, I can play almost any character on there and carry. But it is a problem now, because at this moment that I speak, they have Pharah available and only 3 hit scans available, which is Bastion, Hammond, and Ashe. That means that every other hit scan, no, with the exception of Torbjorn. Torbjorn's still available, I think, but every other hit scan is just gone. No Soldier, there's no, and they banned Diva as well, but there's no Soldier, there's no Baptiste, just anybody that's a hit scan. Now, if I'm a healer, my best option is to kill a Pharah and a Pharmacy. It's a little bit tough to kill a Pharmacy with a Zenyatta, because once a Pharah notices, usually if they have half a brain, they'll start to focus the Zenyatta. It only takes about 2 rockets to kill them if you know how to aim them. But I can kill the Pharaoh herself if she doesn't have a mercy on her. But in order to kill the mercy herself, that little skinny thing flying around in the air and L1ing all over the place, it's a little difficult with Zenyatta. Now, when it comes to being a healer and the other alternative options, I can still go Anna, and I can snipe her down with Anna super easy. So even if it's a pharmacy or a solo Pharah, so that right there is an option that I could use. As far as tanking, my only option tanking in order to kill her would be Hammond, and I could do Roadhog. I'm pretty good at snatching Pharahs out of the sky with Road, but it's not guaranteed enough to be done consistently, so I don't like to depend on it. I only do that if I have DPS that's being, unreliable, which is pretty often. But oftentimes I don't have to resort to Roadhog to fix the problem. But in this situation, I might have to. So, yeah. And as DPS, I'm a pretty damn good Ashe, so not really worried about that. I take down pharmacies on the regular. But, beyond that, yeah, that's what's been going on with Overwatch lately, and there's been a lot of people pissed. Everybody that's not a flex and anybody that's a one trick has all types of of discomfort sticks up their asses. It's hilarious, actually. Like, it's hurting because I didn't mind the first rotation. I think Reinhardt was banned, and I didn't mind it because it's like, I'm actually super sick of playing Reinhardt. The only time I complain about him being banned is when he's needed, because Reinhardt is such a general purpose tank, like the alpha tank. Like, you can design the entire meta around him. That's just how balanced he is in terms of his kit, risk, and reward. But there's just, in terms of the player base, not enough people that has the mindset and the experience to compensate for his shortcomings to make him that fully realized, jack of all trades tank. And that's what's so great. But the only struggle we also have to deal with. Now, aside from all of that, the biggest issues right now, my best DPS would be a Soldier, and I can't exactly go Soldier him lately, and I just bought a golden gun with him like 2 weeks ago. Talk about being tight, but hey, this week's almost over, right? So the rotation's gonna change, but either way, I'm still dipping from plat to gold, plat high gold all the time, which is kind of my fault, because if I just solo queue, I'll get up to diamond, but I keep stop solo queuing. I think that's the best I can say that. I won't say any more on that, but if I just play by myself and just roll the dice with some randoms that all want SR as well, then I'll have a higher chance of wanting to then to climb, and being focused on the objective of winning more than likely. Yeah, so outside of that, that's the one thing that's been going on with Overwatch, and a lot of people, aside from a new skin, that's not really that hot. I'm not gonna report a lot about skins. I've come from League of Legends and all these other games. Textures and skins are not that big a deal. I've never even liked the purchase of skins when they tried to price gouge people when DLC was first becoming a thing, and they made people pay like $5-10 for skins. I'm like, they made that content in like half of a day, or maybe between lunch breaks, and they charging you $10 for a skin. That used to be DLC, but no, that's not my thing. I don't buy DLC. The only DLC I've ever purchased in my life was the Bloodborne DLC, and if you count the Witcher DLC, but it came with a complete package. But let's get back on topic. Another game I've been playing this week was Hollow Knight. Started Hollow Knight, and it's actually so OD. That game is so fun. Like, as a castle, as a Metroidvania fan, and just to let you know what's under my belt, Super Metroid being my favorite, I've played Symphony of the Night, Area of Sorrow. I've played a good chunk of the Igavanias, Circle of the Moon, every all of them, and as far as the Metroids, I've done Samus Returns, Return of Samus. I've done Metroid 1, Zero Mission, Fusion. I all the 2D and 3D Metroids available right now. I've done Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3. Safe to say, I love me some Metroidvanias, okay? So, I even played another Metroid 2 remake, and it was amazing. But yeah, playing this, I really feel it, as well as the wall jumping mechanic. I just got the wall jumping mechanic, and I played I beat the boss with the 3 guardians and the mantis nest or whatever. I should be some footage that I'm gonna include onto the podcast while you listen to this. You can probably watch this, or it's gonna be at the beginning or toward the end. I'll decide once I do the editing. But as right now, you should see it or have already seen it. So, yeah, Hollow Knight. I'm gonna give, like I said earlier about the anime, I'm gonna give my full spiel on Hollow Knight once I complete it. I don't want to pass an opinion on it before I finish it. But so far, that gameplay is super tight, great platforming, great music, just all around amazing mechanics. All of it, it's great. It's great for the hardcore player and for the casuals. So it works, and I respect that. And now I know why it didn't have a difficulty setting. So it's just like get good or nah. And that's how it's supposed to be. It was like that for all the Metroids. There's no Metroid that I can think of off top that has a difficulty setting before Prime came along. So, yeah, and that was only a bonus thing after beating the game. So, moving on from Hollow Knight, I also found a crew to play Borderlands with, because I played and completed Borderlands 1 way back in like 2010 or 11. And now, I finally got the Handsome Collection, and I never played pre-sequel or 2. And I was wondering, I never tried the co-op either. I might as well try it out and see if I can find some friends to play with. And I found a couple of people. Hopefully we'll be able to get that underway. And we started at first, but I was a little too drunk and it was way late at night, so we had to stop after we got to like level 6. So we stopped right there, but we should be picking up back up again, and I'll be able to let you guys know how I feel about it, and if it still holds up, because it feels very PlayStation 3. It feels very PlayStation 3. The recoil is intense too, but I'm doing the Gunzerker class, and he seems pretty OP on his skill tree. Gunlust, that skill tree looks real OP offensive wise, but I get the feeling that I shouldn't make him a glass cannon. I probably want to go into the I forget the name of the skill tree, but the one that's all the way to the right, to make him a little more tanky, so that might be useful as well. So that might be something I'll get down to. Maybe experiment with some builds. I was told that you can respec for free, so that's gonna be hella useful. And yeah, that's gonna be the next games that I'll be tackling. Hopefully it might take me a couple of weeks to get through that if I'm playing all these others, but hey, I'll keep you guys updated as I go. Now, in other news, another thing that I have to just make final about my opinion on Call of Duty Warzone, which as of now, is this podcast and me recording, I have officially uninstalled the game from my hard drive. It was literally 100 gigabytes, just as I called it. I said it before the game was released and available, before I even downloaded and played it. I said in like 2 podcasts ago, I think, that it was going to be over 100 gigabytes. And lo and behold, it was over 100 gigabytes. It's too big. And I can explain why if I haven't already said. But the reason being is that what they do now with Call of Duty is that they make every version the same package, compiled gameplay game package. Like they are making the software, the executable of the game, and it's a full package, the same version for all nationalities. Like it's already big because of uncompressed audio, but also all of the voice lines and voices in the game are, from English to Spanish, every language, French, Dutch, any other language that may be included, it's all in the same version. That way they just have to upload the same package and compiled file over to the Spanish to Europe and EU, the same over to Japan, and they just switch it out to let it know which is the primary lingua franca or language spoken in that country, and that would be the version using that language. So even if you're, so to break it down, even if you're in North America and you download Call of Duty Warzone on your PlayStation or Xbox or PC, you also have, not only is it in English as you hear it, but you also have every voice line of every different language installed on your hard drive along with it. That way they won't have to make a different version for every language available. So they don't need a North American version, a European version, etc., etc. And this saves them cost and man hours, but we end up paying for it in the long run, which is hard drive space. But I value my hard drive space just as much as I value, like, if for like phones, you know, basic apps. The main thing they have to fight for is space on your phone, because you don't always have enough space for all the apps you want to use. So and as far as Call of Duty goes, I've been burned out on Call of Duty. I've been burned out on Call of Duty, I told y'all, since like Black Ops 2. And it's funny that I say that, because now that I think about it, like the Warzone is just Call of Duty in a big old map and more people. It doesn't feel any different. And even as I look around in like the most popular or even the lesser popular streams, people are getting tired of it already, and it hadn't even been out a month. And I don't know if that's because they have more hours and time to play it thanks to the epidemic going around, but that game is not all it seems to be, and it didn't really reinvent the battle royale formula or make it any more unique compared to H1Z1, PUBG, and the other big names in the battle royale genre. Like the most unique battle royales on the market are, oh, I hate to say it, but Apex and Fortnite. Like they're the only ones that actually reinvented and made it different, and Apex is the one that actually innovated the genre. So now that Call of Duty is out, it's so basic first-person shooter in its mechanics that it feels like battle royales are moving backward rather than forward with their designs. And aside from looking at it in a meta standpoint, let's go into detail. The reason I hate it, plain and simple, vehicles in a battle royale ruin the game. There's no neutral ground or equal opportunity for every player if there are vehicles in the game. There's no vehicle for every person in the lobby. So you're going to be met with a situation where there's an unfair advantage for the person in the vehicle or the person outside of the vehicle. Whereas someone who had claymores or a mine to blow up your vehicle or a RPG rocket, then those odds of them having that would completely trump your options as you are driving around. Whereas on the opposite end of that, if you come across an entire team out in the middle of nowhere and they have no cover and you're in a vehicle, please, you could just run them over and you would win 9 times out of 10. Even Shroud, one of the top players and top streamers in the first-person shooter genre, he when Solos was released a few days ago, and he played the game, and his best way of winning consistently and while still having fun with the game was to run everybody over. And I can't even get mad at him for playing that way, because how else is he going to have fun with it? How else is he supposed to get more joy out of another battle royale, which is just Call of Duty? Like, what else can he do? I found it funny as well. So, hey, what can you do? I checked out Dr. Disrespect, watched him. He got more mileage and better results in his kills with a vehicle than when he was walking around, because there's way too much variability when it comes to those weapons and catching people out. Like, it's just too much. I've watched him laser somebody. He kept his entire targeting reticle on his target the entire time he spent his clip, and it missed like, I want to say like 50 to 60% of the entire clip just missed. So it's either lag or whatever you want to call it, but that game is trash. It's trash, and I hate to say that because there's some people who actually invested in the original title, but I'm confident in saying it, and I don't care what they feel about, because Warzone itself is free and it's a separate package. If you bought Modern Warfare, you got Team Deathmatch, you got Domination, you got the 1v1s, you got the 4v4s, you got all these other different modes and everything. You got your campaign and all the stuff that you paid $60 for. Congratulations. I am proud and sorry for you. But that being said, you have what you invested already. This new game mode, this free game mode that everybody's available to play, Warzone itself, the Battle Royale mode, is trash. It is ass. It is nothing but booty crumbs. I can't stress it enough. I wouldn't go back and down if it was at least enjoyable. If I could at least enjoy the gameplay. The looting system feels bleh. Like it just feels like it's almost non-existent. So it's not even a full aspect of the gameplay. It's not even a full mechanic that has no hindrance or detriment, is not detrimental at all if you do well or not. Managing your loot in Apex Legends actually gives you an advantage over others. Managing your loot in Fortnite even gives you advantage over others. Managing your loot in CoD don't mean shit. It just means that you got stuff that may or may not work, depending on the hundreds of situations that you could find yourself in. But guess what? Out of those hundreds of situations, 900 out of 1,000 of them is going to be what? People camping on roofs, because there's no countdown if you sit on top of a roof, no matter how tall the building. So guess what? Everybody's going to camp the roofs. They're going to get a sniper rifle or some type of long range single fire rifle with a scope, and they're just going to tear people up as they approach. And then they'll wait until the ring gets small enough, and they'll go in with their secondary, which is probably an SMG or some type of full automatic rifle, and then hope for the best. You know, it's that's disgusting. You mean to tell me that you can sum up every single time you queue up that easily? You can sum up every single game to be that? I'm not a fan. Not a fan. And for the stands out there, because they know that I'm a hard Apex Legends fan, but you can't really sum up an Apex game. You really can't. Thanks to the character abilities, it has the same variety in gameplay, just like League of Legends or Overwatch. Character abilities offer a chance at asymmetrical balance on a much deeper level, which gives you a more robust meta game. And because of that, you may get to the last two squads in a game, and it could be just you, a Bloodhound, against two other people, a Bangalore and let's say a Crypto or something. And they may outnumber you, and maybe they might get the drop on you. But guess what? Bloodhound, let's say that Bloodhound just got his ult, so he can pop his ultimate and use his L1, find out where they are, even if the Bangalore uses her smoke against him, and he could just search them, hunt them down, outstrafe them, outrun them, and gun them down. Therefore, it completely turned around in his favor simply because of the abilities present. But if the Bangalore is smart and she used the smoke still and able to engage the Bloodhound while the Crypto engages at the same time, they can take advantage of their numbers and know that he can't shoot both at the same time. But if they rely too much on the smoke, or rely on the fact that maybe one of them can take them down, they get overconfident, boom, that's game. You know, it can go either way. COD, guess what? I shot him first. He's gonna go down. That's game. Congratulations, you won. Like, it's no. And I said, I don't know if I went into detail about how bad the Gulag is, but in my opinion, the Gulag is trash as well, because that Gulag, although it was interesting at first, once the novelty wore off, it became a pain in the ass. Because when it comes to 1v1, you don't know if this person opposite of you is laggy. You don't know if the weapons that they give you are just not dependable or overpowered. Simply, like, okay, for example, if they give you a C4, okay, I've seen so many people cheese you in the Gulag with the C4, or even any grenades. Honestly, they shouldn't have put grenades, lethal grenades, or even tactical grenades. There should have been no grenades in the Gulag. That's just ridiculous, because it should be just a man and his gun, one-on-one. because of those two factors that are included, no one has to really try unless you rock paper scissors by the thought of, okay, if they use grenades, then your best option is to rush in. But there's so much cover, it's almost unpredictable and almost advised against to rush in. So, but because I figured out that rushing in is like the best advantage no matter what, because it's gonna have to come down to who has the best skill in terms of aiming and reaction time. So I might as well run in. I have no reason to stick behind cover. I might as well run in and gun them down, shoot them in the back, or catch them slipping, you know. So it's just bad. And you know, they give you a limited time where you can't use the grenades at the start. I think it takes about 5 seconds or something. The grenades are available, something like that. But yeah, that game needs work, but I wouldn't care if they fixed it or not. It's the taste is out of my mouth. I wouldn't go back and download it unless somebody paid me. So yeah, I just shat on the game, but if y'all want to make me a Call of Duty partner, I'm down, you know. But I'll just be real, it's gonna have to be a deal where I could be honest while I play. I'm not gonna be a part of it and then you know, wholly choke on the member of Infinity Ward just to make y'all feel good. Nah. But yeah, back on topic. Let's stop. That was the COD rant. You know, maybe I'll clip this so everybody can, you know, see how I feel about it without having to listen to the whole podcast. But yeah, that's how I feel about Warzone. So yeah, those are pretty much the games that I've been playing this week, and what I'm planning on is to finish up Hollow Knight. I'm still doing the grind on Overwatch. I've been playing a little more ranked Apex as well, which I don't really want to make Apex about the competitive, but it's becoming more enjoyable because I'm actually playing people on my skill level, which is the same give and go, the same risk and reward as grinding the climb on Overwatch or any other competitive game. You get to encounter players that are better than you, and they make you better, but you still run the risk of so many people who got lucky or carried up to your level, and they will ruin the game for you. Or you just won because they were on the opposite team and they were terrible. Or just some people who's just off their game this day because people can't be their skill level every single day all the time sometimes. So hey, that's the climb though. That number means what you can do always. And we're supposed to be robots, I guess. But it's a flaw to everything man-made. So let's move on. All right. Now, in terms of the news this week, well, the hottest news we have going right now, I'm going to get it all out of the way. Okay, this is all the epidemic news. And yes, I said the epidemic news because apparently there's been a lot of controversy and things that YouTube's been doing to people who use the C word, whether it's the abbreviation with the number behind it or whether it's the word itself and what it's been called. So, you know what the epidemic is, you know, the health-wise epidemic that's been causing the quarantine. Now, let's go ahead and get through all that news. So we're going to call this the quarantine segment. Now, the quarantine segment, first off, the Polish government is making games, RPG-based games, to teach and educate kids while they're stuck at home and being quarantined, which is pretty dope because they found out that the best way to engage children and have them learn something is a video game. That's the most engaging form of media to this day, but just simply because of the interaction. Some of the best things that I've learned were video games, to the point where I ended up spending most of my adolescent years sifting out and researching to find out how much of the stuff I'm learning from video games is true or not. And suffice to say, you can learn a lot from Metal Gear. You can learn a lot from that series. But back on topic, yeah. So apparently they've come up with all types of subjects that they can learn, from math to language and social studies through this software that they've been developing, and that's pretty dope. I find that something very what's the word I'm looking for? It's a more modern solution to a modern problem. Reference to the Dave Chappelle meme. That's what we need, man. And why is it only in Poland? Why not in America or Canada or Japan or anywhere? Like, that's ingenious. So hopefully they can launch this worldwide, translate all the languages and whatnot, and translate it over to the school structure of different branches of different country schools school structure. Now, in other news, good old games.com, aka GOG.com, have been giving away free games. They got like a full list of free games. I think it's like 17 or 27 free games that you could just go and grab and download and play right now on PC. So, if you really don't have the money to invest in a gaming console, or if you don't have, Steam readily available with a library of games, and you don't have a backlog at all, but you just want some stuff to play, or you may be stuck somewhere else and you're not at home around your gaming equipment, then you can go ahead and hit GOG.com. They have a bunch of games for free that you can download in support of everyone who is stuck inside, in order to give them incentive to not tarnish their health or spread the virus further. So that's pretty dope. Just go ahead and head on over to GOG.com. I'm going to think about start putting these articles in the description. That way everybody will be able to just click them directly from the video. But if I don't remember to do so, it should pop up like one of the first results in Google, just GOG.com free games, and you should see them. Now, next on the list in the quarantine block is Nintendo donates face masks. I think they said they donate like over 9,000 or so face masks, if I remember correctly. And I gotta say that's a lot. That's pretty bombastic, because they stated that the masks were intended to be for emergencies, and they just held them in the warehouse. So just in case they, something broke out at the company, that they, would have that on the ready, But they said, well, we're not using them, we may as well give it to the people, which I find an amazing thing to do. 9,500 face masks, more readily available, which is the main thing that's wrong right now, is that they're running low on supply of these masks. And I think that's pretty cool. Because there's even been some people on Twitter who've been making masks themselves for these people in hospitals, and these doctors that are working, the nurses and practitioners who are taking part in treating people. And I find that pretty awesome, especially with the fact that this is the first company that decided to do something like where you at, Microsoft? Where you at, Sony? Like, come on now. You got to get up and do something, because there's a lot of stuff going on, especially with all the stuff about GameStop that I got to get into today. But yeah, good on Nintendo. I respect that a lot. That was a good move for PR and for practical purposes. It's a good move. Now, Resident Evil's physical copies will most likely be delayed, which is no surprise to me. I mean, look at what's going on. So they can't exactly get them out. GameStop themselves are having trouble keeping up their retail, and making sure that people get their products. But they have found some options, and I will get into that right now. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and segue into it. GameStop has ordered, remember last week I let everybody know that they ordered to keep the store open. Certain employees will receive pay time off if the stores get closed down indefinitely, but they also will have to, if there's any who still have to work, those will do curbside pickup. So I called my local GameStop in my city, and they did not get any word from their general manager or anybody above that they will be shutting down the store anytime soon. But they were ordered to do curbside pickups, and you can only pay for your purchases through credit. Now, because of such, the reason why they do this is because they ordered, recently they put out an article said that each one of their employees should wrap plastic bags around their hands, so that way they can handle the card. Once you hand the card to them, they can take it, and they're supposed to separate their face from the customer, and they take the card over to the counter, swipe and or insert the chip, and carry out the transaction via credit. Now you have to specify via credit. For those who don't know, credit is how you can charge the card or any account or debit card or whatnot without the requirement of a PIN number. The PIN number is for debit transactions purely. So this makes sense and it's very smart. So they would have to not only once they get done with the bags, wrapped around their hand, and they handle your card. Once they get done with that, they would put your purchase in that bag and grab it with that same hand that has your card, and then take the bag off of their hand and wrap it up and give it back to you in that manner. So that way there's no physical contact whatsoever between the customer and the employee, which is it's suffice to say a pretty good system thus far. In terms of improvisation, it's pretty good improvising. So that's what they've chosen to do. But let's be honest here, because of the low amount of traffic, they're probably laying off a lot of part-time people. On top of that, they're trying their best to have themselves listed, because government-wise, the only businesses that are staying open, I won't say forced open, but that are staying open are ones that are deemed necessary business. And GameStop is trying to see if they can be listed as a necessary business. And necessary is, of course, if it's not obvious, that would be like, stores that sell toiletries like tissue and, shampoo, soap, et cetera, things that we need to function. But it seems to be a necessity in some cases. It gives people something to do, to not be stir crazy. I guess they're trying to work that angle. But at the same time, if that's the case, then that means every store that sells a computer should also be open, because guess what? That streaming, entertainment would also be something that keeps people busy, But hey, we'll let them mince words, and I'll just stick to doing the podcast. So, beyond that, PlayStation Network download speeds have been throttled down because of the high traffic. Since the quarantine's going around nationwide, PlayStation slowed down the download speeds, which is smart. And this is better. A lot of people have been complaining about, are you kidding me? A lot of people have complained, but this is actually a good thing, because if they kept the same speed and there's more and more people putting stress on the servers, it's more likely that those servers could overheat or just be stressed out and go down. It's actually a good thing that they will throttle the speeds, therefore that the servers don't get too stressed out and then be down while we're stuck inside. And if you have a speed that is not your connection and it's not you, it's just PlayStation, Sony is making sure that everybody's staying satisfied. Of the lesser of the greater evils, it's a better choice overall. Now, lastly, this is outside of the quarantine set of news. I wanted to group all that together so we can get out of the way. And most likely in the future, if it's not anything like super important, I won't be including any more quarantine news, because it's the same stuff. There's not much else to expect. So unless it's something that needs to be known and everybody needs to hear about, I might leave it out in future podcasts. But as of right now, these are things that I'm informing you about so you can know how things operate. I felt the GameStop articles and whatnot were necessary so you can know how it's going. Now, outside of that set of news, we have Nier Replicant Remaster. I don't know if this is going to be a HD remaster or an HD re-release, but it looks like they're gonna get to work on recompiling a completely new version of Nier Replicant for the PS4, PC, and Xbox One. And I find that pretty interesting. I've never played any Nier before Nier Automata, so I'm very interested in this. We haven't seen much more about it outside of it just being a cult hit. Because there's supposed to be Nier Replicant and then Nier Gestalt, which was Nier Replicant in America, and then Nier Gestalt was on Xbox 360 in Japan, but when ported over to the PS3 and Xbox 360 and localized to North America, it was literally just called Nier. So here we are. I see a lot of people hoping for the full series to be remastered, because now that it's gained a new fan base, this is the perfect time to do it. You get new people into it, and that's pretty smart. And now I have no excuse not to play the game, so I'm interested. I'm all in. It's a pretty good idea. And let's see. I tried to play the Resident Evil Resistance beta this week. It was released the same day as the demo. I think I told y'all a little bit about it last week. But the beta for the Resistance mode apparently just would not work for PC and PS4. But Xbox users, however, are having a grand old time. So they say they're going to update us on the beta, and if they're going to make it available. But I mean, it's so close to release date. It makes me feel kind of skeptical of how they really screwed that up. But hopefully they learn what they need to know when it comes to service tests and whatnot. Hopefully they got the information that they needed thus far. But they're gonna have to test it. They need to test it. They probably shouldn't have done the beta so close to release. They probably should have done the beta about maybe 2 weeks ago. And then if anything happens, they would have just give it about a week and then give an extended chance to play the beta on all platforms. But moving on, I am kind of mad I wasn't able to try that. I even had my Dead by Daylight crew with me, and we set up trying to queue up as survivors and as the mastermind for about 40 minutes, and there was no game pickup, so I was disappointed. Other than that, yes. Now, this is something that's been insane in the news, and I find it kind of hilarious, but also a little worrying. But if anybody's been keeping up or heard about it at all, the Xbox Series X source code was leaked for the GPU. The GPU source code was stolen, and the people who stole it, or the party who stole it, set a ransom for $100 million, and they even got a chance to confirm that was the source code. And if for those who don't know, a source code for a unique set of hardware like this, brand new cutting edge hardware like this, is hella valuable. Hella valuable. It is the worth of every single system and game that's going to be designed for it for the next decade and a half. That is insane that this actually happened. And and just to draw, I've read the entire manuscript that they posted in the paste bin of them communication with persons who worked at Microsoft in order to confirm that the source code they had was indeed the GPU source code. So I'm gonna give you all a little scope of how serious this is if this source code is leaked, because the party who have the source code already said that if they don't get the ransom, they're just gonna leak it online. And this is how dangerous it is if that stuff gets leaked. That means that every single GPU is going to be a vulnerability path for every single soft modder, hacker, and homebrew engineer. Meaning that thing is going to be busted wide open and hackable probably day one on its release, if not the day before. Like that's just, oh my goodness. If they could find a way to, because they might have to do hard mods, but if they know exactly how it's running and what it's doing, what checks it's going for, all of its input, output reads, etc., that stuff is a huge security vulnerability. So, it's kind of exciting, but at the same time it's worrying, because that could cost Microsoft a lot. But yeah, that's the latest thing in news right now in terms of the Xbox Series X. Also, Doom with Doom Eternal broke sales record for the entire franchise. This Doom Eternal has sold more copies than any other Doom in the entire franchise. And that's dope. I find that very amazing for two reasons. One, they deserve it because they made a great game. And two, it's a good thing to see that the consumers and the gamers are actually going for good gameplay now. They see the value, because there was an entire era during the PS3 era where people valued their stories over their gameplay when they didn't realize yet that they could have both, because they didn't come from the original days of Super Nintendo and etc. So you had a lot of developers that would only focus on story and plot and characters and voice acting, and everything else was like phoned in, like it was a second thought, and that's bad. But hey, here we are, we're getting better. And lastly, the last bit of news that I've come across that I found interesting. There was a rumor I wanted to talk about, but I won't bring up rumors. But lastly, for this week, Valve explained as much as they could ad nauseum why and how they tried to tackle Half-Life 3 and could not release it, because they wanted to make Half-Life 2 Episode 3 for many a year, but they could not come around to doing it. They couldn't bring themselves to do it, because if you've been paying attention, they released Half-Life Alyx, which is a VR prequel to Half-Life 2. So, which really you should call it an integral. After 1, before 2, but still, yeah, it's a prequel, and it's one of the more interesting reads I've had to take a look at, because I've always wondered how Valve was gonna have to tackle it, because Valve's entire angle when it comes to game design, whenever they release a game that they take the time to develop and spend man hours on, it has to be innovative. It has to forward the games industry in some way. Half-Life 1 was a narrative-driven, fully voice-acted first-person shooter, so it doesn't have to be a mindless shooter like Duke Nukem and the others, or just, the 007s and whatnot. So that was innovative. Then after that, Half-Life 2, physics-based, and they even upped the voice acting as well. It just got better and better. They had the gravity gun, etc. Then afterward they did Portal, and Portal was a new take on physics based and alternate mechanics, innovative mechanics that what's the word I'm looking for, a mind-bending puzzle type of gameplay, which you've never seen anything like it until it existed. Then from then we've been wondering to see if they were going to do it further. That Team Fortress even was one of the first and earliest asymmetrically balanced first-person competitive shooter games that I can think of that ever existed. And they did it even bigger and better with Team Fortress 2. And thanks to the Team Fortress 2 economy design, that one game has influenced thousands, well, let's say hundreds of other games economy design, thanks to the loot box system. So they've always wanted to be trendsetters, and I respect that. And this is probably one of the more bearable and best experiences on VR on the market right now, which is saying a lot. I think there's only two other games listed aside from Half-Life Alyx that are must-buys for VR experience, which is a shame. That means there's only 3 games that are must-buys that are actually, okay to play and enjoyable, compared to these other hundreds of titles that they've made thus far for VR, because they've been pushing that shit since 2016, and I haven't heard anybody that was hardcore on VR. The most people I know that's hardcore on VR play VR chat. And the only minorities out of that group, Beat Saber. But yeah, so that's what's been rocking this week. Hopefully you all are having a good week, as well as getting ready to have another great week. Me personally, I'm doing my best to enjoy my week, and I'm still working on another video for you all. It took way more editing work than I initially thought. It's If you saw the timeline of my video editor, you would go oof and harumph and my goodness. But it's taken a lot. But hopefully, I'll actually be able to finish it and not be so critical about it, because I want it to be like the best that it can be for you all. But I'm thinking about just throwing all those thoughts out and just get it completed and just shove it up, on the channel and let you guys tell me what you think, and that way I can improve on it that way. But anywho, I won't hold you any longer. Just remember the channel motto. Just remember to follow and subscribe and everything, and let people know to follow the podcast. And there's always my Twitter as well, at SlimCognidoMode. Go ahead and give me a follow. There's a lot of interesting stuff that I retweet, and it's my most enjoyable social media platform since quarantine. So always remember that the channel motto is: intentions are the most important, actions ain't nothing but loud, and words don't mean a damn thing. I love you all and have a beautiful week. What I tell you, nigga. Bow down, bitches. Ooh, shit. Now y'all have been dethroned. You are now my 3 honorary nothing assholes. And don't you ever try me again when I try to walk out this bitch. You hear me?